Well, folks, it's almost election time. The August 16th primary is right around the corner, and we're being asked by gun owners all across the state, who is the pro-gun candidate in my district? Aaron Dorr here, guys, with Wyoming Gun Owners, with an update for gun owners in House District number 7. We're talking about Metro Cheyenne, Laramie County, House District number 7. And we have an incumbent in this race, Bob Nicholas, versus the challenger, Rick Coppinger. And there's a really sharp contrast between these two candidates. Now, what we're being asked by our members is to tell you who's the pro-gun candidate. And then you're also asking us, how does anybody know who we can trust anymore? Because everybody says they're pro-gun. Liz Cheney says she's pro-gun, and she's backed red flag gun seizures repeatedly in Congress. So how do we know who we can trust? So in this video, we're going to break down all we have for you on these two candidates, the results of our candidate survey program, and a whole bunch of votes that Bob Nicholas hopes you never hear about. Now, despite what you might have seen over the last year and a half with the Secretary of State's office and with Ed Buchanan, WIGO is not going to tell you who to vote for. We're not going to tell you who to vote for. We're going to tell you instead who supports the Second Amendment and who does not. And from there, you guys will make your own decision, as always. Now, we're going to start with Bob Nicholas. Bob Nicholas. Bob's been around for a long time. Bob chairs the House Appropriations Committee, and you do not get the gavel of a committee, let alone the Appropriations Committee, unless you are a committed player here in Cheyenne. Unless you are a part of the Insider Rhino Club, you do not become the chair of the Approps Committee, which is what Bob Nicholas has. Bob Nicholas has a long history of backing gun control. Bob Nicholas, to begin with, voted no, or voted for mandating gun-free zones here in Wyoming. WIGO is always trying to repeal gun-free zones. You guys all know this. Gun-free zones are lethal. Gun-free zones are where madmen go to kill people. It happens all too often. And until we get rid of gun-free zones, the last of them here in Wyoming, we have some of these targets of opportunity for madmen here. We had a bill on the floor just 2 years ago to deal with that, and Bob Nicholas and a handful of other rhinos sided with the Democrats to block the bill. We're talking about House Bill 183, and the date of that vote was January 31st, 2019. So when he had a chance to fight for gun owners, he was a no vote, along with the rest of the rhinos and the hardcore Democrats that we have here in Cheyenne. But that's not all. The big fight for the last year and a half here in the state has been over the Second Amendment Preservation Act, or SBPA for short. Now, Bob Nicholas was the chairman who had SBPA in the Appropriations Committee in 2020, and he blocked the bill. In other words, he says, well, the bill's in my committee, and it will not come out of the committee for a floor vote. That bill number was House Bill 124, and you can see that online as well. It died in the Appropriations Committee. Now let's be clear on this. This is 2021. Joe Biden has just been installed in the White House. We're facing the biggest threats to our gun rights in a generation. We have the most important bill of our time on the legislative calendar on the floor, and Bob Nicholas, on orders from the Speaker, bottles that bill up in committee and kills it. That's the kind of scumbag we're talking about here. Now this year, similar story, not quite the same. This year, when we had our vote for SBPA, this year's bill number, House Bill 133, the vote was on February 18 of this year, Bob Nicholas was another no vote on the Second Amendment Preservation Act. But here's where it gets slippery. You see, the rhinos are getting smart. Gun owners across the state crushed careers in 2020. And everybody in Cheyenne now knows we better play somehow with gun owners to try to fool them, or else they're going to come hunting us politically at election time. So after Bob Nicholas voted down our SBPA bill this year, the rhinos in Cheyenne, as you guys all know, brought forth their own version of SBPA, and it's a disaster. It allows state and local authorities to be co-opted by the federal government to enforce federal gun control laws as part of a federal task force. They've also removed all the teeth out of SBPA law. And so if they do violate SBPA, the only way that we the people can stop them is to hope the county attorney brings criminal charges against local law enforcement. We all know that will never happen. But that is the way the game is played here in Cheyenne. They vote down the good bill, and then because they're concerned about WIGO members in their districts, they bring forth a trashy version of SEPA, and they hold that up at election time and say, see, I voted for SEPA. That's the con job that is being played right now by Bob Nicholas. So when he tells gun owners he was a yes vote on SEPA, that's true after a fashion. After they gutted the bill, sure, he backed that one. But he voted no on real SEPA law this year. He bottled up SEPA law in committee last year. The year before that, voted with the Democrats for gun-free zones. And right now, when we're asking him on the record where he stands on red flag gun seizures, Bob Nicholas refuses to answer the question. And because Joe Biden just passed a federal gun control bill, which has almost $1 billion to bribe states like Wyoming if they pass red flag laws, Bob Nicholas's silence on this red flag law question is deafening. It's a big concern to gun owners in District Number 7. Now, that's Bob Nicholas. Rick Coppinger is pretty much everything the opposite of what you just heard me say about Bob Nicholas. Rick Coppinger surveyed 100% pro-gun with Wyoming gun owners. That means that he didn't just say, yeah, I'm pro-gun at an event. Everybody does that. Talk is cheap. That counts for nothing in our opinion. It means that Rick Coppinger sat down and filled out our candidate survey, and you can see it on our website right now, and he put his views on our Second Amendment freedoms in writing. And he signed the bottom line there, which allows gun owners in the district to hold him accountable. That's what a leader does. That's what somebody who's not afraid of the Second Amendment does. That's what Rick Coppinger did. And that means that on the record now, Rick Coppinger is opposed to red flag gun seizures. It means he's opposed to any attempt to have universal background checks here in Wyoming. He's opposed to fixed NICS. Don't forget, 2 years ago, it was the Republicans who tried to bring forward fixed NICS mental health gun control. Of course, they all got shellacked in the primaries in 2020. They're all gone because they were kicked out of office by WIGO members, but that issue has not gone away. Rick Coppinger is 100% opposed to fixed NICS law. And he also understands what happened to SEPA law this year. He understands that while we have what the rhinos call SEPA on the books, we don't actually have SEPA law. We have no real protections as gun owners here in Wyoming if Joe Biden wants to come in here and use our cops to enforce his agenda. So on the record, Coppinger supports fixing the Second Amendment Preservation Act. You know, folks, we live in an era where our gun rights have never been under a bigger assault. We have a demented president in the White House who wants to attack everything we care about when it comes to the Second Amendment through legislation, executive orders, international treaties, and on it goes. And so it's never been more important that we have people who we know in office, who we know will stand up and fight for the Second Amendment. I don't know about you guys, but people who just tell us they're pro-gun, that doesn't count for a whole lot. We want to know, will you fight to protect it? We've got fighters in Cheyenne. Not a lot, but we have a decent number of fighters in Cheyenne. We're always trying to see who will fight to uphold our gun rights. And in this race, in this incredible time we have right now with these pressures and these attacks against our gun rights, Bob Nicholas has shown time and time again he is an enemy to the Second Amendment. And Rick Coppinger has made it very clear on his candidate survey he is a 100% champion for our Second Amendment freedoms. So if you live in Laramie County or know anybody in Laramie County or know anybody else who's involved in this race, take a moment and share our video with them. Share it on social media. You can share it via email, put it in Facebook groups, get the word out about these two candidates. And guys, when you're done, if you haven't yet done so, join WIGO today by going to www.joinwygo.com.